Thank you, councillors, for your attendance. I declare the June meeting of Warren Shire Council open. First thing I'll do is propose the acknowledgement of country. Warren Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands within the Warren Shire and acknowledges the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who reside within the Shire. Council, I call for apologies for this meeting. I have a number that the General Manager might enumerate those.
Mr Mayor, Councillor Whiteley, Councillor Kinsey, Councillor Van Donk and Councillor McCloskey.
Someone happy to move those apologies? Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Second, Councillor Derrick. Put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of our ordinary meeting held on Thursday, the 25th of May. Someone happy to move those minutes to an accurate record. Councillor Jackson's happy to move. Second, Councillor Derrick. Councillor Jackson.
I commend those minutes with no comment.
You. Any comments, questions regarding those minutes before we put them? There being nothing, I'll put that. All those in favour? Yes, carried. Moving on to item 5, disclosures of interest. Councillors, we nil received. Thank you. There are no mayoral minutes. Move on to item 7 of our agenda, reports to committees. And the first of those is the meeting of UMR Waste Depot. Councillor Drews, you're happy to move that. Second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Drews.
Yeah, just going a couple of things really. Just updating you the transfer station that the earthworks have commenced on that site. Macquarie Geotech have conducted a soil compaction test. The compaction looks pretty acceptable, and when the final results are in, the footing for the retaining wall will be excavated, reinforcing steel installed, ready for final inspection prior to pouring of the concrete footing. And Macquarie Geotech will be on site every time to do a sample of the concrete with that. The new management regime seems to be working with the fellows out there with the supervising the stockpiles. There's been less contamination when they've done the shredding out there. Both the piles have been shredded, so it looks a lot better now with that. And I'd just really like to acknowledge the work that the council workers are doing out there. The site's really looking has improved a lot, so they're doing a great job, so I want to acknowledge their work. So that's pretty well it, I think. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Drews. Any comments, questions regarding UMR Waste Depot?
A couple of questions, if you don't mind. First one's a comment. In the general business section, the second bin outside the rural trader, is that a UMR Waste Depot issue? Is that a town services issue? I love the fact that they've pointed it out, but yeah, that's certainly not. Yeah, I don't think it is anyway. I'm not saying it's not needed, but the other one was, what are we going to do with the pile of chopped up pallets and timber out there? What's the end game for that? All we've done is change the state of it.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
It will remain on site and used as vegetation cover. Yep, so it'll be used for cover on site.
With pallets? With all the nails in it? Haven't they been all shredded?
Yeah, they've been shredded, yes.
And Councillor was asking what happens.
That's all we've done is change the state of them and turn them into big bits into little bits, still full of nails and bits and pieces, I suspect. I wouldn't have thought it's useful for much at all, that stuff.
We just one at a time, and please through the chair. Thank you. Councillor Brooke, you've got the floor at the minute.
Yeah, like we don't seem to do anything with it. I mean, and the extension to the question would be, is there in future big picture stuff for the green waste? And I understand that we can't take green waste or processed concrete off site because of EPA regulations, and I'd like to think we can work with that a little bit, and it's been discussed in the past. But there's got to be a bigger solution to that waste, in my opinion, in that the concrete waste could be used and taken away by other people, but I understand there's a lot of contamination risk in that. But the green, if we had that not inside the levy bank of the, waste depot itself, could we reuse it somehow? Like we just had these great big old piles. The last pile of pallets was accidentally burnt. At the cost of $8,000 for the fine for that, the cynic in me says, chuck a match in it, it's going to be cheaper. I'm not saying do that, but it's like, boy oh boy, we've changed the state, paid a lot of money for someone to come and change the state of a pile of wood, and now it's still a pile of wood, and I don't think it's useful for much at all. I'm happy to be corrected on that, but I wouldn't put it on my garden or anywhere like that because of the nails and metal contamination and that sort of stuff. It's no doubt it's an ongoing issue. I'm just not confident we have an end game for that product. And the green waste all chopped up, if it wasn't on site, would there be, like the wood chips at the showgrounds and things like that, don't put them there in the first place maybe, or put them separate to the area where they are put now so they can be taken away if someone wanted to recycle them or use them for garden mulch or parks and gardens or something at showgrounds, rather than just sit there and fester like it is. It's more of a comment than a question. I just think we could maybe do that a little bit better.
Okay, Manager, what's the plan?
So we are limited under the legislation that we do have to dispose of waste at a landfill facility. We can't dispose of waste at other premises. So just we're our hands are tied in relation to the legislation of how flexible and our options available to us. The view of the EPA is that it's a recycling format, so we're saving space in the whole by shredding our pallet heap. Because the only other alternative is to put it into the cell. So yeah, but it just biodegrades on top of the ground rather than inside the cell. So you're saving.
So what's at the crux of this is the definition of the waste site, in my mind. So we own several hectares of council land at that facility. The waste area itself is confined by a levy around that, but there's area outside of that, is there not, that we also own as a council?
Yes.
So couldn't we have an interpretation of the facility itself that still fits inside that legislation to have that green waste put outside of that levy bank, so it's not in the waste facility, so we can think about another way? I mean, this is futuristic, but it's an awful waste. Some of that stuff has a second use, and I appreciate that it's all going to go in the landfill, which itself, whatever, but the green waste, could we do more, is the question.
But, Councillor, we might just, consider, maybe we ask the Manager of Development to do some investigation with the PA as to where we could go.
It's all about the interpretation of the site.
So let's do some investigation and see if we can come up with something. I take very much on point on your view on board, but let's do some investigation through the UMR Waste Depot Committee and just see what we can come up with that suits the chair of that committee. Councillor Jackson, I think you had a question.
Yes, just very quickly, through Mr Mayor, that section, general business miscellaneous, there are two comments. One is the road needs to be fixed if it's rough, and the second is bits and pieces that are saved. Just wondering if the roughness of the road includes the homemade speed bumps that have been installed out there and not really correctly signposted so that people actually come right up on them. Albeit they might be going a bit fast, but they're still coming right up on them very hard. And secondly, why are there bits and pieces saved and stored? Is that not scavenging? Why are there items?
No, other people aren't allowed to scavenge. We recycle as the owner of the depot.
Okay, so as the owner of the depot, you can pull items out and save them, like prams, tables. So what happens to those items?
Some of them are saleable and it happens and it goes back into the waste income.
Now, after how is that, I've never seen such a sale advertised, I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just, how does that process work, where you sell things that you sell things that you salvage out of the waste?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's essentially, if you're at the waste facility and you like that pot, for example, and you'd like to purchase that pot, you would, ask how much it is, and they give you a receipt, and then we send you an invoice out from the office here. So there's no cash handling out at the waste facility as such. So yeah.
Through Mr. Mayor, just wondering if there's an unofficial tip shop, could it be more broadly advertised to the community?
Definitely.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question, again, about general business, and the idea of the youth group assisting with collecting rubbish from the side of the road, whether that is something that is being progressed, and I guess what the arrangement would be to get the youth group to do that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at the time, roadworks were happening, so we decided that it's a bit too, difficult to try to collect rubbish within an RMS roadworks site as such. So yeah, so that nothing has happened today as yet.
And there is some trouble actually obtaining use to be able to actually do the work, is that correct?
Correct.
You said more than that on that.
Thank you for that. Councillor
Yeah, they have done this before, haven't they? The youth, they've gone out before to do that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they have done an EMU bob on council property behind the waste facility, not necessarily along the roadway as such.
But they have been engaged before.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the waste depot report? Nothing further. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the second of our reports, meeting of the Mannix Committee held on the 13th of May. Someone happy to move the minutes from that meeting? Thank you, Councillor Walker. Second, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Walker.
I'm just happy to make a recommendation, thank you.
What's been progressed with?
Maintenance Engineering Services might just to bring us up to speed with the number of the flood claims that you'll all recall, the differing ones, and then the lumped together ones. So just so that we're clear about where we're getting to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know there are lots of acronyms in this program. I'll try my best to explain. So, the March 2021 event, that's ADRN 960. The essential public works, restoration works, has been approved, and we are progressing the work. So that's that. And then the following event was November 2021. That's AGRN 987. So for this one, our consultant is progressing the packaging of the work for submission to Transport for New South Wales. So I expect them to send me the draft by end of this week. The next three events overlap one another. There was ADRN 1025, that's the June 2022 event. And then there was the August 2022 event, which was 1034. And then the September event was 1034. So for 1025, 1034, and 1030, the consultant is packaging a priority work package for submission to Transport. Transport advised that we will not be able to proceed with our immediate restoration works immediate construction works until we have at least part of AGRN 1034 approved. So I have asked the consultant to package a small submission that contains all the roads that are in our 1034 immediate construction works. So if we do that by end of this month, then we'll be able to proceed with the 5 roads under the immediate construction works. So the 5 roads in question are Kolai-Trangi causeways, which we are almost done with, almost completed. There's also Eudora Road, which is under construction, almost being done. There's Matagai near the 5 by Cow bridge, that very coming section, which we are moving into very soon. And then there's other causeways along Karinda Road, and there's Wambiana Road, some sections. So I expect them to send me this package in a week or 2.
Yeah. So it's all a little bit complicated, but nonetheless, it's BEC we're talking about, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. So they were the guys who were involved to survey all the roads, and so what Sylvester's chasing them out to get the various packages that we need to submit to Transport for New South Wales, get some of the smaller packages sorted so that we can get them ticked off, and then fall into line with getting the reconstruction work done as well. So.
And then there's a big package.
Yes, then
After that,
After that, will be, yes, yeah, quite significant.
1034 we think.
Yes.
Another big package after that, but that's just a little package containing our IRWs.
yes.
Allows us to do our IRWs.
Will you get reconstruction work, councillors?
The mayor's learning, right?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
just in terms of approximate figures, the package under the November 2021 event, that's the AGRN 987, is approximately 1.1 million. And then the bigger package of 1034, they're saying it might be 3 million.
On top of the 2 million we've already got.
Yeah.
3.3.
Yeah.
So we've had one approved completely, was that 960s done?
Yes.
Yeah, 1.87.
So, the
Plus,
first
plus 349 on
miracle, the court, Gal, yeah. So it's slightly progressing councillors, but it's a lot of work for flood damage it's created.
Well, we had 323 out on the Allenville Road as well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. We had 750 approved for emergency work, 462 for another emergency work, and we've got 274 emergency work as well, to be approved as well.
Emergency works under 1034.
Yeah.
That comes our figure there was 800,000.
Is that?
So, councillors, just keep posted, we'll keep, the Management Engineering Service will keep on the job and keep BEC on the job, so we keep getting bits sorted out under all this emergencies funding. Yeah. Councillor Brewer has a question, and then you get some down on me. Yeah, Councillor Brewer.
For the Manager of Finance and Administration, the section on the Open Action Plan for Service New South Wales, what's the impact and can you update us on the position that's vacant in the office next door for that Transport New South Wales?
We have a potential, if the bill happens, that's when, term of work situation. Hopeful that will happen. So I think today they get some more information and they'll let me know on that, which may mean they come back to work in the next, short number of weeks. Potentially is what we're aiming for, which will alleviate some of this problem, obviously, if that is able.
But in a limited capacity.
In a limited capacity. So we're not really sure about what sort of hours per day they'll be able to work and whatnot. Just have to go through that process. The workplace needs to be assessed by private insurance company that's involved and whatnot, for suitability of duties and stuff. Next to that, I've spoken to Contact Recovery Transport or Service New South Wales, sorry, and they have a mobile service that they can provide. And at this point, in the past few weeks, all I've got out of them was 1 day for a few hours in that time frame. So
what's the current impact in terms of registrations and those sorts of things? Can we still get that done next door as we have?
it'll be closed essentially. We can't staff it, then we don't have the service available, unfortunately. So I shopped around and looked for other agencies similar, so there's Canangle, Gill, I even tried the actual Service New South Wales office out of Mingan, so they're the ones who come over and do our driver testing and whatnot, and they're very short staffed. They said somewhere out west further there was another agency that just had to close for 6 weeks or something due to staff leave. They just don't have the bodies. They didn't have anything spare they could send out from Dubbo. Parks even weren't able to set up help. They've been pretty good with training. If we need to give staff refresher training, in the event that we onboard somebody new in another role, which is also a leaf in that Service New South Wales. They've got training that's coming up in July. We can sort of staff over to, but unfortunately at this stage, it looks as though it's kind of all swinging on this return to work situation, how that pans out, as well as
which is a small chance everything could happen Monday, but everything, all the ducks have to be lined up.
yeah, so I've been trying to push for contact with getting the worksite assessed and whatever through these other parties involved, but it's not something I have direct access with, so going through the employee on that and the process, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be very unfortunate if it has to close, but we've been talking and shopping ideas around for this, trying to accommodate it for a good number of weeks now.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, you had a question?
Oh, thanks, Ned. So the person that's going on holidays, is that right? So how long are they having?
2.5 to 3 weeks is originally.
So if you don't get this person the babies and as you say, well, the ducks don't line up, it'll close. So the idea that I read somewhere of having a sign outside to let people know if it's open or closed, is that possible? Because we need to get it out there for the community to know if it's what's going on.
I'm literally waiting for contact from the employee today to say very clearly one way or the other what's happening. So
There's a small chance they could be starting Monday, back Monday.
So let's
One person is not enough to man it the whole time, is it?
Better than zero.
yeah.
let's leave it to these guys to manage the situation as it falls into place. We can't preempt where.
We only have one
Just thought
staff
the
member
sign was a
present.
good idea, just the sign to let the community know and putting it out there somehow to get them up to speed with what's happening.
For sure.
It can go on our website depending on how. If we're short, I would ask that you just.
We do Facebook and
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, just let people know where we are so that there isn't
Signs everywhere, plus the sandwich.
false expectations. Councillor Jackson, sorry.
I just have one quick question, comment through Mr. Mayor. Is there a risk that we will lose that agency if we're persistently not having transactions through that agency?
No.
They need us.
Through Mr. Mayor, that's okay. We personally used to work there, used to always say, please don't do your transactions online because if you do, we will lose this service. I just wanted to
I think it's,
make that if that's correct or not.
There's always a potential for it, I guess, but it's highly and widely used here, so yeah, I can't see that being a risk.
Sadly, sometimes we're the go-to from everyone else.
Yes, a number of, I concur with that view. There's a number of people who come from externally out of our side to come and use this facility. So I would hope, Councillor Jackson, that we're in a good position from that point of view. Yep. Further comments, questions regarding the minutes of the Managed Committee meeting?
Just trying to fill as many positions as possible. If you know anybody that are suitable for employment, remind them, please.
Exactly. Nothing further on the minutes of the Mannix meeting? Thank you. We'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to reports of delegates, the first of those being the meeting of the meeting was made. I'm happy to move that from the chair. I'm happy to second. Thank you, Councillor Derrick. Councillors, all that information is very much there in the report, in the minutes of that meeting. I think we potentially bought it last time, but just to reiterate, Tara Moriarty, the Minister for Agriculture, was in attendance at that meeting. We tried to bring her up to speed with the issues that pertain to us, particularly with weeds and water. And I think she's on a fairly steep learning curve. The interesting one from my point of view was Damien Lindberger, the fellow CSU medical school, and we've offered a letter of support to his proposal, and he will take the courtesy to contact us as an individual council to support. So I'm hopeful he'll come out and have a chat with us, and we might progress the matter of having medical students here as part of our RFDS facility over at the Warren Family Medical Centre. So we'll try and keep that going. It certainly seemed interested in Warren, which was a gratifying outcome. But I'm happy to field any more questions. Councillor Drews.
What is the history behind the Dixon's Long Point dam proposal?
Yeah, so it's above Burrendong, between Mudgee and the Orange, for want of a better geographic term. It is relatively, it's quite a steep, as my understanding is, it's quite a steep ravine, and can be dammed relatively, and I say that in the broad sense, relatively cheaply. The issue with that one is accessibility. There's no road access to it at all. So it's been on and off the agenda for some time. Okay. The thought is, though, it could help in terms of water supply for Orange, particularly. And it's been proposed, particularly by Mudgee, Big Western Regional Council.
The real problem is that it eats into a diversion limit that isn't there. They talk like 700 megalitres, and I think it's something like gigalitres, and there's 20 to 50 gigalitres available in the diversion limits. That's the problem that they've got.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Brewer.
A question for you, Mr. Mayor, regarding there's a comment in here from the Honourable Tara Moriarty, and one of the dot points says the pressures being faced by aged care facilities is making them impossible to run, and as a result they're closing in small towns with elderly then ending up in hospitals. Can you tell us a bit about the context of that? They were not talking about, were they talking about local service providers or aged care facilities such as Gilgandra and others, those larger facilities? Because the next dot point is frightening as well.
It's to do with the Gilgandras of the world who run those aged care facilities, and so not particularly applicable to us in the sense that that's being talked about there. But they being Gilgandra, big employers in that field. Wage pressures, requirements for staffing in terms of qualifications, nursing staff, etc., are really squeezing those operators to the point where it becomes uneconomic. And their concern is that there's a number of community-based, as in Gilgandra and there's other places, Cobar, are in the same sort of position, and the difficulty is seeing a way forward with those facilities, with the present budgetary constraints that they're faced with, and staffing constraints.
And if as it says that the Western Area Health is 40% understaffed, that doesn't help by forcing some of those elderly into those other facilities that don't have the resources either.
Isn't that a shocking statistic?
Yeah, we were quite alarmed to hear that number, that 40% understaffed throughout Western Local Health District. And there's no one from Western Local Health District there to deny or confirm that, but it certainly wasn't repudiated by anyone, so we have to take it as having some degree of factuality about it.
Anecdotally, Dubbo Hospital is getting full too. So everyone's, Dubbo is full.
There's no further comments, questions regarding the Alliance Western Council plan? So being the case, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the meeting of the Country Mayors Association held on the 26th of May. I'm happy to move that again. Seconder, Councillor Bruce. Again, the information's there in the minutes. Presentations from Rose Jackson, who's the New South Wales Water Minister, the new Water Minister, Jenny Atchison, the Roads Minister, and look,
Number 2 in health, the parliamentary
Secretary,
Digital.
yeah. All there, I think, to be fair, all still finding their feet in where they are. Rose Jackson, the Water Minister, spoke particularly about Walgett and the issues they're having there. And I think she's very well meaning. She's been in contact with Walgett Council quite a lot. So I think there's some evidence there that she's going to be quite proactive in the water space. So I think that's probably a pretty good thing. The Roads Minister, Jenny Atchison, I think again just finding her feet. There'll be a bit of time. I think that at the moment as we're just seeing from what the Division of Engineering Services are saying, they're questioning a lot of funding, and so we'll have to just see how that all falls into place over time. But we don't want to see programs held up for too long because of the probably the lack of experience that they have. I think a lot of staff are no longer with. The various bureaucrats have gone, and so it's really a start again process for a lot of roads and health and water. So it's going to be a little bit of a difficult time potentially for us on the ground to see where it all goes.
Mr. Mayor, I mean, if you're going to talk about, we've got a report soon about the local roads congress, the one negative thing is that because they're still finding their ground, both the senior roads minister and his regional roads and transport and roads minister had nothing to really say, well, guess what, we're continuing this program, doing this program, and so we're all up in the air about some really important, all those folders at the back there relate to the grants that we've got that everyone out here needs to continue. Minister for Roads, it used to be the Shadow Minister for Transport and Roads, so he's on board. She actually has come from a tourism road user background, so that's one positive. Understands it's regional road. Local and regional road networks need money to actually get them up to scratch and keep them up to scratch. So if we don't want to go backwards.
Sorry, Councillor Bruce.
Just a comment there. I'm really happy to see daylight saving and the resolving to reduce the.
Councillor John Metcalfe there of Lachlan is a very firm protagonist in this space, and yes, you will enjoy your support, Councillor. To the southwest, for this on the southwest. Councillor Walker.
I believe there was a meeting with the Minister for Police and Counter-Terrorism with Narromine and Bogan. Wondering if you heard anything from that or because of what's been happening, and I think what's happening around this town, and there's a lot of concern about just or if you've been in contact and support, or if just be aware that
Yeah, Burke, I think there was Burke involved.
I just heard on that was Bogan, Narromine.
Okay. No, it doesn't. Christopher Chair. Yeah. I mean,
It's a real concern.
I think as part of our operational plan, we are trying to get a meeting with the police and the inspector. It's happened, it has, yes, but we just haven't been able to organise it, but we'll do that, probably. Well, we can see what we can organise, that's getting them on the page is the important thing, Councillor Walker, but yeah, I think we've got to, I think you do your town this disservice if you really highlight into public sense any crime. I think Dubbo are doing themselves potentially a disservice by really going too hard. We just need to deal with it in a quiet way.
It's out there, it's not an unknown thing what's been happening.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding moving on to the country mayors? Yep. Nothing further? Put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. There are no item 9 on our agenda, and there are no reports from council regarding policy. Moving on to reports of the general manager, the first of those being the outstanding reports checklist. Someone happy to move that? There are a number of asterisk items there. Councillor Walker's happy to move. Second, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Walker.
Happy to move the recommendation. I was just wondering, for Mr Mayor, the first one about the mobile internet coverage. There is if anyone's aware of a grant, it's these spot grants that are for regional connectivity and mobile backspots. They're turned up in the RDA Arana. If anyone's aware of them, might be some assistance to the problem they're having out there.
Thank you. Noted, Councillor Walker. It's a matter of
I know.
pursuing every avenue. Yes.
Mostly from page 25 on, there's a few before that. So what's sometimes the subparts get removed. The first one
The one on the remuneration tribunal decision, which we've
so page 30,
there were 6 votes on.
I'll probably resolve.
If we might just highlight, we'll go through and just highlight those asterisk ones so that everyone's comfortable that they be removed from the general manager's action checklist.
The first one is page 11, the bottom one, number 2, and the number 2 and number 3 one. The task force has still got lots to do. Then on page 12, it's the bottom 2. On page 13, the top one, your small little wage increase, allowance increase, you'll see next month. Then to page 20, the bottom one, number 2. And then on page 25, the top one, and second one stays, and everything on the page except the last one. I think you could almost Divisional Management Services we probably just entered in the contract for asphalt yet, or not quite, well, that's why it's not asterisk. Bottom one on page 27, bottom one on page 28, and that's it.
So councillor Walker, councillor Jackson, you're happy that those items that are asterisked and just been highlighted are removed from the action checklist, that annual report checklist? Charges sent there. Any further comments, questions regarding councillor Jackson?
Mr. Mayor, just page 8 of that report, page 57 of the document, regarding the visit of Lucy from the destination country and outback. She met with quite a few people, so there's a typo there. So Warren Chamber of Music should be Warren Chamber of Commerce. And I would just like to comment that I was there as a member of the Warren Chamber of Commerce, and I want to congratulate the Economic Manager of Economic Development Visitation on her efforts in securing that network, which will be very useful to our Shire, and I think she's doing a terrific job in that space.
Thank you, councillor Jackson. Councillor Brewer?
Just a quick one on page 4 of that report, the Carter Oval Youth Sports Precinct. What's the outcome of the inquiries to the
amenities building, is that what?
Yeah, the
To the stage of, almost to the stage of instruction to the contractor to remedy. Just waiting for a final peer review of independent peer review of another civil engineering firm, which is close to being finalised, and then a level will go to take action.
Yeah, the infrastructure projects manager is expecting that peer review in the next couple of days, so that then action will follow from that. We just need something definitive to say, hang on, this is not the standard that we expect. Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering, the Warren Airport projects, I believe from reading that the terminal building at the moment is not going ahead. How is that affecting the person that wishes to have a flying school set up? I mean, are you in close contact with them?
Yes. Yes. He's fully aware what's going on. And
are they happy about the delay though?
No one will be happy about a delay. However, with the there's a report going to the airport committee that will hopefully do a recommendation to the July council meeting, which hopefully will see something by the then August council meeting, which is close to the timing of what was happening anyway. So he's been kept informed as much as possible, particularly with proposed changes to the scope, and making sure that he's happy with that. All he needs is the same footprint of officers and training area. That's all he can be happy, needs to be happy about, and we're trying to stay within the timing that was original. Originally told to him at I'll call it the tender analysis time, because it has stretched out further.
It's unfortunate to see him sort of pull out because of what's happening. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions regarding the outstanding reports checklist? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 2 is our traditional standing item. Attending the committee and delegates meetings. In recognition of Warren being a healthy town and because the awareness of a healthy lifestyle, council will be standing while dealing with item 2 of the general manager's report. I'd like someone to move item 2 of the general manager's report, the committee and delegates meetings. Someone have to move those. Councillor Derrick, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add there, we did hold an interagency meeting on the 8th of June, and the next meeting for interagency is scheduled for the 10th of August. So the minutes from that 8th of June meeting will hopefully come to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions, additions to the meetings attended or coming? Thank you, Councillor Walker.
I was just, through this now, just wondering, the Housing Plus meeting, if there's any advancements or changes or what's happening.
What we've done is we've given them a chance to go away and do their business case. And then following that, they'll come back to us with their final agreement. So we haven't turned around, we've turned it around to let them, so allow them to actually know exactly what they need to do, how they're going to do it, how it's going to be funded, and then the agreement. But they were happy with our requirements, with our agreement so far. And hopefully some New South Wales government and eventually Commonwealth government funding is coming their way.
They're just more waiting to, they'll do a type analysis of what thing they think can work, their business case, as the General Manager said, and then hopefully the funding will flow. I think my view would be, and the General Manager might agree, they're quite positive. With the caveat, funding required. But we, if ever we're in the right environment to see some funding for housing, it's now.
Affordable housing.
Affordable. And probably that's the point that we need to continue to make. We're talking about affordable housing, as in those who are working, as opposed to social housing, for that particular package that we're talking about in the Gunnedah Estate.
I was also going to ask through this now to ask the chair about the MOVE meeting that he went to on the 9th.
Because the executive and a lot of the delegates have actually been to that conference, the conference beforehand. It certainly not as exciting as the Alliance of Western Councils and the country mayors. But they're taking the leaf off country mayors and attempting to try to organise meetings at Parliament House in the future to try to make sure that shadow ministers and ministers are there. Relating to energy and mining and exactly what you want.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 2 of the General Manager's report? If nothing further, we'll put item 2. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 3, reports of General Manager. That one being the works progress report pertaining to infrastructure projects. I'm happy to move that. Councillor Jackson. Second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Jackson.
I'm happy to recommend, move the recommendations. I have no comments myself.
Just commenting, it's great to see the placement of Australian toilets going along quite well. Yeah.
I mean, what's so pleasing is that there are many ways of budget control, but this is one that helps the staff as well. I mean, staff have their individual reports on all their projects, but senior management team and councillors are seeing budgets and the budget controls attempting to be undertaken. Seldom is there a budget and it seems an over expenditure, which is pleasing. There's lots of work going on.
In terms of infrastructure project, the show was very successful, and the infrastructure project team is working on that disabled access up to the GBS Faulkner Lounge, but the work that's been done inside that GBS Faulkner Lounge is really, really good. The number of favourable comments I had when I walked in there with the double open doors and the floor being refurbished, the fixed panels, windows, toilet facilities in there. It's really a very, very usable and a great space that we should be really pleased with. It's in my view, come up exceptionally well. So Councillor Ritchie might just report that to the Showground Racecourse Committee that the favourable comments that are occurring there. And then Engineering Service might take it on board as well. It's been very well received. I understand, of course, it's work in progress, but I didn't hear too much criticism about the portable toilets or anything. I don't know whether anyone else did it to show, but people understand that it's progressing and it's going to make it an even better facility.
Subject to rain, concrete slab work at the front of the GBS Faulkner Lounge is happening Friday. Subject to rain. On page 53, the bottom of page 53 is the Growing Regional Economies Fund grant application, or ELI, that we put in. That's one of the regional grant programs that everyone's concerned about could go by the wayside. And that one there, you might as well call that is our access to the marshes, is the summary of from the airport terminal building to going to windows on the wetland, having a training session, then going out to Monkey Gale Creek bird viewing platform. There's a nice parking area. Then to the Burrama access road, and including making sure we put some water from the sewage treatment plant that's properly treated into Tiger Bay to keep it looking good. It's a wet marshes, and we're not putting too much money into a fairly large project, but it could go by the wayside. Go to the city.
Just a comment. I'd like to congratulate the council on the 2 new toilet blocks that have been installed. The physical installation is complete. It's waiting for them to be wrapped, but I think they're absolutely fantastic and a real asset to our main street, both ends of it. So well done, council. It's been a while coming, but they're nothing but rave reviews about where they are and you know how accessible they are.
Okay.
Vinyl wraps very soon.
What's that, sorry?
Mural wraps very soon.
Yes. Yeah.
Just an awareness, I think the wraps can't go over the doors, is that correct? Yeah, so there may be some disappointment that they don't. When Councillor Jackson may inform us more, but that's the understanding that they can't go over the doors.
Previous to now, yeah, but it would just be a sort of colour that blends in with the murals themselves, so it shouldn't look terrible. And it helps you to find the door. I actually like it, otherwise you could have...
In a hurry. No, they're very good. They're an asset, for sure.
Absolutely.
We should all go and check them out and make sure that they're functioning properly.
I have.
Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Jackson.
Mr. Mayor, just a question on toilets, the main street ones. I will comment, are getting well used in my short time back, and notice a lot of people don't limit the security factor back of them. When's that going to be?
Happening, yeah. I think,
What's there is not very secure.
Thank you, councillor Tyler. Councillor Jackson, you
I'd just like to also add that our hope to have an official opening ceremony of some kind. It sounds a bit trite, but particularly down there at Lions Park, with the Lions planning or hoping to install a plaque, and I think it'll be a great community, a great thing to celebrate, something positive to the community, because there are many community members on the public arts committee who were involved in the development of this project.
yes, it seems a funny thing to be making its own dance about and having an opening, but it's just one of those community facilities that has been looked for years, or two community facilities been looked for years, and to see them come to fruition is gratifying. Any further comments, questions regarding item 3 of the General Manager's report, infrastructure project? Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on forward, the report for the General Manager, that being the delivery progress report. Someone happy to move the recommendation? Councillor Walker, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Walker.
I'll just, move the recommendation, thank you.
Councillor, you will notice that there are a few red areas that we still need to be addressing, but all in all, I think there's been some significant progress made in terms of delivery of services, facilities, etc. to our residents. But be mindful that there's always room for improvement, and there's lots there that's still ongoing in progress. So gives us the opportunity to monitor those things and just see how we are going. Want to share any comments at all?
it was always, we didn't have any red, that means we've got too many resources. Within reason. I mean, that's why I've kind of, Mr. Mayor, introduced the white thing, because some things aren't applicable until the next few years in the delivery program anyway. But, when I first started, it was quite obvious that economic development, tourism, visitation needed to be progressed, and now that we've got that office, things will stop becoming red and becoming yellow, and then eventually green over the next few years, which will be good. And engineering, with if the engineering gets another $4 million worth of flood damage, which is crossing fingers and hoping, we will have $29 million worth of extra roadworks over the next few years. Over the normal programs, which will see lots of improvement. The users of those roads are, unfortunately, I think they see other councils around us sometimes worse off than us. But we still worry about networks that are in good condition, and the more supervision, the more surveillance, the more money, and improved asset.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 4 of the General Manager's report? Councillor Jackson.
I think, Mr. Mayor, it's a comment, just page 65, regarding traineeships and Indigenous traineeships within the Shire. I just want to note that I know councillors attended, because I was there myself in another capacity, Aboriginal Roundtable conference, and has made connections with Aboriginal Chamber of Commerce and also Aboriginal business development organisations. And so I think that we have, and can say to the community, that we are putting a toe in the water there. We are making progress building networks and starting those conversations whereby we can actually achieve this stated objective that we have in our strategic plan.
No, thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 4? Delivery program progress report. Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 5 is the course of general manager, to dispose of interest. Councillors and designated persons, the recommendation, someone happy to move that recommendation, that particular table disposal of interest? Councillor Jackson, Councillor Derrick, Councillor Jackson.
I'll just move it as recommended, yes.
Thank you.
Been tabled, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 5? Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 6 is the local government New South Wales annual conference, which will occur in November, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah, off the dates. Someone happy to move the recommendation there? Thank you, Councillor Bruce, happy to move. Second, Councillor Walker, Councillor Bruce.
Just moving the recommendation, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, what the recommendations, what the report's saying is that you now kind of know that the ministers were going to go and try to see. Within reason, the interested councillor and available councillor needs to have an interest and a help with those areas. So that helps you with what, in the direction we need to take of the fourth person who attends. It'd be nice. We booked accommodation. Jody, we done the registrations too? No, but the accommodation we had to make sure we organised because that's up in Parramatta real quick. So if there's the council is interested and relates to water, land, emergency services, roads, regional roads, health and agriculture, put your hand up if you're available. 12th to the 14th.
Are you wanting to do this today? I'm just mindful that we've got a number of councillors absent.
If this one is better now with just an expression of interest out.
I think we express interest, I think, and at least get that for the councillors who are present today, but I don't want to make a decision today in that other councillors are absent. I'd like everyone to have the opportunity.
Which was the same as you did for the
one. Yeah. So what's the recommendation?
Exactly, yes, it stays there and we'll just ask everyone in the next month or so.
Yeah, so recommendations, no issue there, so, yeah. We just propose that. So you might just circularise the councillors, everyone, each council on the expression of interest.
And talk about the practicality of attendance.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the local government New South Wales annual conference held in November? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour? Yes, carried. Moving on to item 7, 2023 local roads congress. Hosted by the
Papers there, Mr. Mayor, if anyone's interested.
Isn't that surprising that you've got the paper there? Institute of Public Works Engineers Australia, board member, are you not? Yes.
I think
Someone happy to move the information received from I think was a representation. Councillor Brewer is happy to move that, second, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Brewer.
Councillor McCloskey and myself attended with the Manager for Engineering Services and General Manager, and it was worth going to. It's always interesting to get the first-hand perspective, I guess, of what they're doing in roads. There certainly is a focus on away, in my opinion, from regional roads to city roads and flooding events up and down the coast, and we've got a fair bit of focus, which I guess is fair enough based on population. The kind of the vibe we got out of it was that the reclassification of regional roads is probably not dead in the water for now, just because of funding it's all too hard, and the new government doesn't really have a handle on what they're doing. good, however, to see that there was the opposition were conciliatory. They got along pretty well, and so the whole demeanour of it was a bit of backslapping and, you know, we'll help and things like that. So that was pretty good. Very clearly, they're looking at those projects that have been recently awarded by the previous government, and that's clearly under review. They don't really know what they're up to moving forward, so they need the input from these types of congresses to help guide them and steer them. So, yeah, look, it was fairly technical. There were some really good speakers who had some excellent things to say. It's all in here. It's fairly dry reading, I've got to say, but there wasn't a real lot of bombshells. The focus for us was that they look like they're going to listen to things like, you know, not just repairing but improvement of flood damaged areas and things like that. They just have to accept the fact that councils are best placed to have an idea of where to put those new culverts and direct water and fix roads just to a degree better than they would be just to replace them the way they were, because they'll just wash away. They're listening, but I don't think this is what they're going to do right now, because they're really busy in trying to work out what it is that they actually do. That's the long and short of it. The General Manager can make comment if you like, but there was a lot going on. Not a ridiculous amount came out of it, other than they're listening and that the reclassification is kind of dead in the water. So that Tottenham Road for us, that inland flatland route, is probably not going to get any air under it for quite a while. It's kind of done, I think, and the funding will be sort of channelled elsewhere. Is that fair enough, General Manager?
Let's hope it's not channeled to the government seats around the outskirts of Sydney. Real worry is a good example for us, is that there's fixing local roads round 4. We got $2.8 million. That's this budget. Fixing country roads, we got $1.1 million. That's this budget. We've got Bridges Renewal Program, Commonwealth, $3.8 million. We worry about that. We've got a $3.6 million project funded by the Commonwealth. So that's the one they're actually have considered, but because we've started it, we've done $1 million worth of culverts out there. Everything's right, but it is a real worry. This is our bread and butter that could go by the wayside. I've heard the Commonwealth Government are going to make the next phases of local roads and community infrastructure only community infrastructure. Now we've had some fantastic runs with local roads and community infrastructure for local roads as well. Now this time we're doing lots of roads within our parks and as well, which would never ever get done if it wasn't for that type of program. We haven't heard about, you know, we've got this regional local roads repair program that the engineer talked about being a worry of a couple of projects we're having to justify. That's $2.4 million for us. That should be continuing to keep going. We've got our repair program, which we're just about to add all our flood damage and our local roads and repair program for Martha Guy Road. Let's hope the repair program keeps going. We're yet to hear about our New South Wales infrastructure betterment program. You haven't heard a thing yet. And there's some really big projects on there that we're hoping to get. That could just go to the wayside to all the roadworks leading to the new Sydney Airport. We hope that they see sense that actually everyone uses the regional and local roads of New South Wales and not just us in the country. And hence, I was very pleased to actually have a communique that actually came out within the couple of days. I thought that was a very good discussion of getting the communique main points right. Normally, local government New South Wales takes weeks to actually finalise the communique, but they did it within a couple of days, which was really good. having a Parliament House so that everyone can turn up, which is really good too. And it is our major asset, and that's why I think that we should always show face there. And let's hope it does continue to look a fair amount of regional stuff for us instead of just all metropolitan transport stuff.
I had, on my table at lunch, was Daria Turley, and I had quite a lengthy conversation with her about the impact of the failure to reclassify some of these roads, and in particular that Tottenham Road. And I said, look, things like our local cotton gins are important to us because it's a value add in our shire from product produced in our shire. So those sorts of things are very important to us. But the amount of traffic that was on that road in dry periods, not just for cotton but also for hay carting and those sorts of things, we just don't have the resources going forward to make that the road it needs to be. You know, and it's going to deteriorate. Therefore, we can't just put all our resources into that. There's an enormous amount of traffic on it, and you know they don't realise the importance of some of these traffic routes to small councils and what's important to us. So, you know, will it help? Well, probably not, but you know, there's still a few issues that there's always going to be issues with roads. I get the distinct feeling they're going to put the red line through some of these projects. I really do. I don't want to see that, of course, but yeah, there's a lot of sort of smoke and mirrors going on there, and the new government, when they realise the commitment from the previous government, they just might. So yeah, there's that risk.
So is your view, Councillor, many of the former senior staff with Transport for New South Wales, are they still in positions, or is there?
I don't think so, no. I think, but I do think that the previous government is trying to help them out. They seem to, you know, they're on the surface of it, on the day, you know, they were in a, you know, they were all presenting and whatnot. They were pretty good, weren't they? They were as good as you could hope for. It certainly wasn't any of this, well, that happened on your watch, or you know, sort of like we see in the federal sphere. It was a whole lot more conciliatory at the state level, that's for sure.
Usually collegiate almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Great point, that's good.
So it's a positivity, but I still think once they work it out, there's some easy runs to make by putting red lines through some of that grant funding, unfortunately.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the report pertaining to Local Roads Congress? I'll be there. Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the report from the Division Manager of Finance Administration. First of those being the reconciliation certificate. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Jackson happy to move. Second, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Jackson.
That the information we received and noticed, if the Manager of Finance Administration has anything of import that he wants to bring up.
Probably the only thing of note would be still having trouble basically with the NAB in terms of getting authorised and whatnot across various things, which includes, this is the final part, term deposits. Apparently when you go into the NAB and you say, hey, I'm here, I sign checks, I have a credit card, can I do whatever for council, signed off and whatnot, you have to do it about 10 different times to get each little tiny thing done. So they were accepting instruction, I think, with the likes of investments, being able to roll them or have them returned and then reinvest and so forth. But now they've said, no, they've got to fill out all this paperwork and get it approved. So if you notice that list of investments in the interim may get shorter because I don't have the ability to go back to them and say, can you deal with this and add another one and so forth. So.
We're spending like general fund money at the bottom.
Yeah, so the positive is around this time of year, it's a good thing to kind of have them a bit shorter on frames and all that sort of thing, and look to scope it over the new year, what cash flow is there. I think it's performed pretty well over the year. Obviously, interest rates have gone up. What's been received is interest income is quite high in the budget. So otherwise,
Just a question for the Regional and Fund Administration. Regarding the trust fund, the income increase there of 15,483. Do you know what that pertains to?
Just the cogs are turning, Mr. Mayor. Just trying to think what that was, actually.
You might just have a look at that.
I can certainly get back to you, I can't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's just a significant increase in that fund, which is a little bit unusual. There might have been someone, a donation or something. Yeah, I'll leave it to you to just source that.
There was some, of the candidate you were looking at, wasn't it? Sorry? Yeah.
We'll leave it just to come back to us on that one. Yeah.
Can do.
No, I'm not going to put any, it's just it's more for information than anything. Anything else on item 1 of the Division Member Finance Administration report? Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 2, statement of rates and annual charges, someone happy to move that? Councillor Drews, happy to move. Second, Councillor Walker, Councillor Drews.
Just happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Question please, Mr. Mayor.
Certainly, Councillor.
What's the explanation for 10.4% in arrears only? What's happening to make the amount in arrears so good, I guess? It's normally around that, if you look at the previous years, it's around that, 1/3 of total. It's down at 10%. Is that an error in the calculation or is that a real number?
Real numbers, yep.
So what's happening differently? Everyone loves paying their rates on time, ahead of time.
Yeah, the last instalment was due at the end of when? Last month, was it not? Correct. Yeah, so I guess it is a reflection, it should be at around that sort of number, Councillor Wolf. That was the last instalment at the end of May. But it is, it's certainly discrepancy compared to the same time in previous years, is it not? So, yeah, look, I can't, off the top of my head, see why it should be so much different, except people are, I'm very pleased with the services being provided, Councillor Brewer, and happy to pay their rates. Timing, that's what, but I don't know how it's.
So, I'm not sure how heavy we are with, debt recovery and whatnot. A lot of the time, it only takes a large thing, so say in the case of, there might be, received a couple of inquiries in the past month or so around transition of owners from estates and so forth, where it takes a bit of time, builds up a bit of arrears, and it is a large value in certain farming cases. And it's not until it rolls over that then somebody goes, okay, here we go. But yeah, I can definitely have a look at that as well.
Just information more than anything. It's a good problem to not have, as opposed to
certainly getting that, yeah.
Well, the money in our bank, that's the real thing.
Yeah.
20% more.
Okay. Sure, Councillor Walker. Yes.
You just see the difference in the figures across the bottom. The collection figure was a percentage. It's right up there. It's 89, and the rest are in the 60s. So.
It's hard to actually grasp how that's occurring, Councillor Walker. I think that's the point. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2, the statement of rates and annual charges from the Division Manager of Finance Administration? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the Works Progress Report, Finance Administration areas projects. A couple of those there. Someone happy to move the information received and noted? Thank you, Councillor Walker. Second, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Walker. Question if I might to the Division Manager of Finance Administration. The pre-seed purchases, is that complete or still more to be sort of
just been purchased more now.
Yeah, so that's been spent, that'll show. on the next
That'll, next time will be, yeah, okay, thank you.
one.
Yep, no, that's good, that's
Thanks,
fine.
item refurbished report, what's some new stuff. I think you'll get it, and you're being too. We got a couple of laptops, so, one of those will come in here. It does go for new stuff coming along and just general kind of replacement items.
No, very good, thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 3 of the Division Manager Finance Administration's report? Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 4, adoption of the 23-24 operational plan, and the estimates. Someone happy to move with those? Councillor Bruce happy to move, second. Councillor Walker, Councillor Bruce.
Yeah, happy to remove this, move the recommendation, and note that, the Central West Riding Club and the Pony Club were the only submissions that went into it. I might pass it over to the General Manager if he wants to comment. We had a little meeting with them last week on their submission.
We, Mr. Mayor, we had the fortune of having subcommittee working with the adult riding group and the pony club, moving forward with how things are going to be operated and maintained at the Showgate Racecourse, particularly in relation to the new equestrian arena. Bottom line is that what's recommended is partially what they've asked for. I won't say quite in between, but some things were considered reasonable, some things were considered not reasonable, and that's why you'll notice in the report that it's italic that shows the direction that we're going. Bottom line is that every user of the equestrian arena will be inducted and be using equipment that's in the budget, that will get purchased if council adopts this budget, and they are responsible for maintaining and operating the centre using that equipment. It will take some time to get completely organised, but everyone will be inducted and trained how to use the equipment, how to use the watering system properly to their requirements, and making sure that everything is cleaned up behind them, ready for the next user. And in fact, turn the lights on. You'll be turning the lights on using an app, and the bill will go to the user. The other stuff through the document relates to the changes that the OLG have advised us in relation to interest and the costs of Section 603 certificates. We've made a decision that we don't adjust the development costs. Manager, we get about 30 developments a year. Is that very close?
Oh, a bit more, yeah,
More, yeah.
varies depending on the drought or yeah.
Most of the time, it's the income from development is pales in significance compared to the costs of planning, health and development and planning and environmental matters anyway. That happens with most councils. Ours is probably proportional. The one real change is that the adult riding group want to go and probably use the facility 10 times a year, and it's incorporated in their annual fee, so it makes it easy for them to be able to bill their members. Pony Club have slight difference, and that's why they've said we'll probably only use it 4 or 5 up to 6 times a year at $140 per day, and then people will have to pay as required, because they can't organise their membership to actually, 20 of us turn up and it's $7 each for the day, and that's why they've stayed at let's hire it at the daily rate and have our normal little fee for 10 other meetings a year. We're still working through making sure that there's a complete understanding of the full responsibility, but that of maintenance and that the groups are learning. And we will have fun inducting them all on a bit of equipment and teaching. And we're starting to teach everyone how to use, but we're learning too. For example, the watering system to get it right as well. So next 12 months will be hopefully a reasonable amount of use of the equestrian arena at reasonable cost, and people doing the work that they need to do to operate the thing properly.
Councillor Jackson?
Just a question in regards to the equestrian arena. That this year's budget is for regular users, local organisations. Is there a separate budget for external organisations who wish to host events?
Yes, it's all there.
So obviously the pricing is different and their requirements for maintenance are different as well.
No, exactly the same. They will have to be inducted on using the equipment and have to make sure that the facility is left in the way they found it. Perfect.
That's the way, just to be clear to everyone, that's the way we operate all our facilities, is that you come into a clean facility, ready to go, and you leave it in that same way, and that's what we're working towards here. It's going to be no different, it just has to, and there'll be some teething problems, we all accept that, it just needs to be worked through and get it as good as we possibly can. There'll be actually, I would be hoping, a management type sheet that actually outlines the responsibilities of the hirer, so that it's written down and people understand exactly what they're signing up for. Is that correct, Councillor Bruce?
Yes, they're working on doing the pre, during and post. A bit like the jockey club. Yeah.
To fully answer the question, the fees and charges that are contained in the draft stay the same, but additional, you have individuals per hour, family or group of maximum 4 riders per hour, which is 30 and 50. Then you have small equestrian event, which is less than 75 horses, $140 per day, $800 per day for the more than 75 horses and less than 200 horses, which is the medium equestrian event, and a large equestrian event, which is more than 200 horses, is $1,198. That also relates to events and shows per day, so there might be some other event that needs to use the facility or a show. There's accredited coaching clinics per day of $140. There's individuals horse riding groups. They might want to hire, not just for an hour, but for the day. All the same, it's still there, it's just additional. You pick and choose what you need, but in the end, all users responsible for the preparation, which is watering, cleaning, rolling, raking, and equipment users must be inducted.
Thank you for that. Just some consideration of that one submission that did come in terms of the operational plan necessary. Any further comments, questions?
I've just got a comment for you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the Adult Riding Club for such a detailed submission. They've taken a lot of time with that, reads really, really well, and it's quite sensible. I'm glad that we've taken on board some of the recommendations in there. I just wonder whether, what's a user? What defines a user? Is it a user, the club, or is it an individual? When we say that you're going to induct the users, it's not every person, it's only the users of the equipment, so nominated by those clubs.
Or just,
Yes, just need to. So over time, I would hope that all members of the club can be inducted in using the equipment. it's only the executive that will be given the app to turn the lights on and off. And within reason, a slightly larger group will be inducted on between the executive and the full membership of each group of how to water the system, use the watering system properly.
So in that submission, the Adult Riding Club recommended that the council the council actually initiate watering on a regular basis. So is this going to be, they suggested a year-long trial, are we doing that, or are we just going to go ahead with it and adjust as we go?
We're going ahead, and they are responsible for operating the facility. Watering.
Right, so the only issue I see with that is that if it's not used for several weeks or something like that, it doesn't get watered, what are we doing to mitigate compaction and other surface issues with that that matrix that's inside that
So the next user, and say it's been a month since it's used, they actually have to look at it and say, well, actually, we might be doing something Saturday and Sunday. They have to work out their watering regime for Saturday night, and because sometimes there's something in between. But leading up to it, they actually have to determine their watering regime to set their event up, their use up.
So the use of water and associated power is the responsibility of the council at all times, not the end user. Because hypothetically, if I was that group, I would just set a regular watering for every day before I.
But we can't do it anyway. It's going to be by dongle and can set up the watering system automatically. But what will happen is you're right, it will have some dry out, and Warren Pony Club will have something on Sunday so and so, and that user has to actually set up their watering regime in preparation for it.
Councillor Drews.
Yeah, and just through you, Mayor, just on top of that, the engineering manager said at the meeting the other day, the more that it's rolled and the sand will compact over time too. You see the other
Guys,
day.
that's a question you, no? That doesn't drop. Joe, sorry, the infrastructure projects manager was that,
Yeah.
And they are noticing with the more use and more watering that's actually getting better and better.
Okay.
We're not calling it a trial, it's use, but everyone's just still practicing to get it right. And nothing untoward at the moment. Young users are really enjoying it because it feels so safe for them.
Councillor Walker, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm wondering, with the watering system, is there something you can turn on it from a distance, or do you have to?
No, you're fine.
No, let's
Lights by phone.
Let's go through the chair, please. No, the questions don't go to another councillor, they come to the chair.
Lights are by an app, the same app as Victoria Oval and Carter Oval. We're still working on. It's kind of it's going to be an automatic system, but you actually still have to set your automatic system for watering at the system, and it's a bit more complicated of if it becomes. It's not yet going to be by app for the watering system. Maybe, but not yet.
I was just asking a question, if you're at a distance and you can turn the watering on, but you have to be there to see it's all working properly and doing what you've planned to do.
Everyone will get better at the watering system. The app-wise for lights, your app tells you that it's turned on.
Yeah, I'm just asking because if you're at a distance, you don't know what's going on with the watering, but do you have to be there?
You could be in Sydney turning the app on.
hope it works all right.
Mr. Super, you've forgotten to turn the lights on. Can you turn the lights on, please? If you can do it from Sydney.
I think Councillor Walker will see how the management goes. I think it's going to be a learning experience. And let's the manager, the Showground Racecourse Committee will work their way through this along with the general manager. Councillor Drews, you are
Just further comment, the channels are so open between these horse users and council, and having these subcommittee meetings, they're bringing up a lot of queries and things that are right or right, so it's working really well that way.
So all these questions are coming.
Correct.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions before we adopt the operating plan and the estimates for 23-24? This is the formal adoption of, after 28 days of open for public comment of our operational plan for the next 12 months. Nothing further?
Mr. Mayor, before, what we did with recommendation 3, instead of the big long lists of all the things, because they're contained within the document.
Yes.
So, but that is the minimum statement that you need, that needs to be made.
Yep. So the move and second are happy, of course, with that, because often a very long list in previous years of absolutely everything that goes into that recommendation. So as the gentleman said, all that is contained in the document. It's just a little bit briefer way of adopting the operational plan and estimates. No difficulties? Councillors will put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the reports of the Divisional Manager of Engineering Services, the first of those being the roads progress reports. Someone happy to read the information received and noted? Right. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Derek, Councillor Jackson.
Move that the information received and noted.
Just an information type question to the Divisional Manager of Engineering Services. How are we progressing in terms of, are you getting through the things you anticipated getting through in a timely manner? How's it all working? Are we running, I think we're running short of gravel at the moment. You might just bring us up to speed with that one. Just an overview without going into specifics.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for that. Within prison, we are progressing well. Most of our roads are now open and safe to use, apart from a few that we are soon addressing. Particularly, we have the Mother Day Road near Fireman Cow that we're moving into very soon. We were having issues with gravel supply, but we've now secured a bulldozer to push some gravel at our token pit. We're looking at other options for gravel. The other day, staff went to Manix Pit up near Karinda, and the plan to put the dozer there as well to push more gravel there. There's a stockpile there that we can use in the meantime. Moving well with our immediate reconstruction works. As I stated earlier, we've done Dora Road. It's in progress. We've done causeways along Polytrongi Road, and we're also moving ahead with the flatworks that are in front of the APR 960. That's the March 2021 event. And Dragon Cow, as you are aware, is awarded to a contractor, and it plans to move to site early next month. We are progressing well with all the Warren Road, the culverts installation there. 7 out of 11 sites have been completed. So they are looking at finishing the other three in the coming 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. Very good. Councillor Drews.
It's through me to the engineering manager. Can you give an update on what's happening on the Oxley Highway with the roadworks just out of town, please? Because they've disappeared.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Drews is right. The contractor has moved out of sight. They haven't quite completely demobilized because their equipment is still there. They're having issues with supply of asphalt from Dabo. My understanding is that transport fees as well as some other higher priority work somewhere, so they've taken all the asphalt. The contractor expects to be back on site. I think they mentioned sometime next month. So if that happens, then we expect our now traveled asphalting works on Dabo Street to be done in August.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gratifying to know that we got the Toucan pit up and operating again, gravel. Yeah, that's important to have that the raw material to be able to do things. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 1 of the Division Manager of Engineering report pertaining to roads? Nothing further. We'll put that all those in favour. Against? Carried. Item 2, Division Manager of Engineering Service report pertaining to town services. Someone happy to move the information received and noted there? Councillor Jackson happy to move. Second is Councillor Derrick. Councillor Jackson.
Information be received and noted, and if Division Manager of Engineering Services has any pertinent comments to make.
Someone correct me, but in terms of slashing, was that in Moselle Road? I missed it, sorry. Okay, I might have to leave that then, sorry.
What's the slashing?
Yeah, there was a bit. Yeah, I was going to mention that. And the importance of doing it and then having the current funding. Apologies, councillors. Any further comments, questions regarding the works progress report, town services? Sorry, Councillor Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, just a question on the Warren Levy rehabilitation program. Where we're up to with that? The river's currently at very low levels, which is ideal for it to be worked on, but we have the funding. Why haven't we started?
Celeste and I will talk about, both of us talked to, it's a $7.1 million project. We're actually finalising all the design work. It's much more complicated than that, including having confirmation of $887,500 of the funding yet to be confirmed. You've engaged consultants, project teams working, but it's actually a 3-year project.
Yeah, it's taken to see the next flood come down. We haven't done anything, you know. It was a priority. We got the funding.
Mr. Mayor, we have received the approval to proceed by the funding body, the formerly Office of Environment and Heritage. They are administering the fund on behalf of the federal government and the state government. So the only thing that is holding us is OLG has not approved yet the 807,500 contribution. So once they have that infrastructure, maybe. But in the background, we've started moving, preparing specifications, especially for the floodgates refurbishment and also pumps purchasing. So that's going on in the background. We will be commencing specifications for the levy as well. We have the draft design, which we're finalizing as well. So once we get this approval, we'll be up. Then.
Yeah. So you remember there's two lots of 877 500 that we have and sales in it. And so that second one is being held up, basically, is what the Regional Engineering Services is saying. So I guess we need to expedite that. And you've been in contact with OLG to get that.
It was selling 15
Yeah. Yes. It's
Another justification, Mr Mayor, of things that we have to do.
okay, right.
One positive is that I attend its terms to the Regional Emergency Management, Regional Recovery Committee. And we've been harping on about insurance problems of Warren and Warren Shire for the last, since about October. Meaning embargoes, people having huge increases in their premiums, etc. And we're working on that. But Public Works Authority, one of the bosses was on and he did some investigation, and all the work that was done that related to sewage treatment works helped determine what the levy, our levy height is, and our levy height is at least 1 in 200 plus the 1 metre freeboard, which is more than it needs to be height-wise, which we're going to start using as part of the process to get these insurance companies to actually start trying to reduce premiums around the place. I, for one, have been caught my own contents and so much dearer than you would have anywhere else, because we're deemed a flood risk with over a 1 in 200 flood levy plus 1 metre freeboard. And so that's something very important. That's absolutely everything. Landlord's insurance, contents insurance, building insurance, business insurance. So that's something very important relating to levy and development that we're actually progressing with as well. It's pleasing that it's a pretty tall levy. You just don't want it to fall in the river. And that's what this project's about.
So, to the Division Manager of Engineering Services, have we got a time frame when you expect a response from Oxford Local Government regarding that 887 500? We don't have a time frame. Do we need to talk to our local member about that and push that along, or how do you? I've taken up very much on board Councillor Taylor's view that we've had almost had all the funding. If that's the stumbling block, well, we just need to.
Oh, that's progressing the first part with the design.
And things like that, getting it done. Yeah. I understand the design part's going ahead. I'm getting that, but we need to be in a position to pull the trigger and go.
I used to have, Mr Mayor, there was a lot of concern from residents when we had the High River regarding that particular point there. Then currently sits, I think, around 95% full, so it wouldn't take much of a significant rain event to get that dam to flood level again, and then again raising the concerns of the residents, and comes back onto us. It's a priority, as I said earlier. Why isn't it started? Why isn't something cleaned up?
I think Council taken on board the Division Engineering Services perspective there. Design work's certainly happening and continue. We just need to, in the political sense, get the funding, the final bit of funding sorted. We will take that on board. As you know, it's going on. You and I, we better push along on that one.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to grab and exact this discussion and send to get further our
Sure. Absolutely. It's, Thank you. We're still on item 2, the Division of Engineering Services report pertaining to town services. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 3, Division of Engineering Service report pertaining to the fleet in the workshop. Someone happy to move that information to received and noted. Councillor Brewer happy to move, second Councillor Derrick. Councillor Brewer.
Let's move the recommendation. Thank you.
Any comments, questions regarding the fleet and workshop? Thank you. Nothing further. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the reports of the Mental Health and Development Service. The first of those being the development application approvals. Someone happy to move those? Give that information to note. Councillor Jackson, secondly Councillor Walker. Councillor Jackson.
Yep, that's the information, be received and noted.
Thank you. Any comments, questions regarding the development application? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 2, Works Progress Report for Mental Health and Development Services. Someone happy to move that information? Second noted. Councillor Walker's happy to move. Councillor Jackson, second. Councillor Walker.
Move the recommendation, thank you.
We've added in the information that just all those projects.
On all of them.
Yeah.
Nothing further on item 2. Sorry, Councillor Jackson.
I just had 2 quick questions. First of all, the animal shelter replacement project in the planning stage, has that moved along any? And also library defibrillator, which I know there was an issue with supply. Is that still coming along, or is it still?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The animal shelter replacement planning hasn't progressed at this stage. And the defib, we actually cancelled the back order and purchased another model. So it is now currently at the library. I'd have to check whether it's actually been installed.
Animal shelter is waiting for what you just did today was the $80,000 that needs to be added to it.
Councillor Walker.
For you, Mr. Mayor, I know I do ask this question most meetings about the dwellings in Deacon Drive. Is it still in court?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a confidential item, so I can't comment on that, sorry.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 2, Mental Health and Development Report? Councillor Walker.
It's just something I found interesting when I was in Dubbo the other day down the main street, which had a bit to do with defibs. They had a sign on the side of a garbage, like the garbage ones we have here, where the closest defibrillators were in a position. And I thought for people visiting or people passing through, it was interesting. It was a good thing, I thought.
The state government's doing the same thing, and we're considering doing something as well, because we now have lots, haven't we? Yeah.
The question is there a standard someone across the state that everyone uses?
I didn't look to see where this one came from, to be honest, just the notice as I walked past.
But just us knowing if there's a standardised one, so you recognise it immediately.
I'll be in Dubbo next week, I'll take a photo.
You Councillor Walker, good. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2, Mental Health and Development Report? And nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We have no notice of motion, and we know notice of urgency that I'm aware of.
late morning teams.
But council will move into committee of the whole closed council, and we'll just go through that procedure. I need a resolution to proceed into committee of the whole closed council to consider the matters listed on the general manager report and any other matters which is resolutions being carried. And then need a resolution to exclude press and the public from the committee of the whole closed council for the reasons stated in the motion. Someone have to move both those, please, Councillor Jackson and Councillor Taylor. I'm going to put those together. All those in favour, against, carried. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Craig. Thank you.
Now, I can turn it off.
Yes, I can, please. Yes. We're now recording. Councillors, we're back in general council meeting, ordinary meeting of the Warren Council. We have considered a matter in the committee of the whole closed council. I'm asking those who move that item 1, committee of the whole closed council, the recommendation there within, if they would be happy to move that in the ordinary meeting of council. And that was Councillor Jackson and Councillor Kirk. Any further comments, questions regarding the item that came out of the committee of the whole closed council before we put that? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour? Against, carried. Councillors, that, I believe, concludes our meeting. Very good.
210 pages in less than 3 hours, not bad.
Not like.